In this episode of Project 1918, we check out tanks. Tanks. Rad. Then we change gears to look under the hood. Before some more veteran tales and tank talk.
Okay, what are we working on right now, Sean?
So what we're working on, we're actually preparing the fuel tank and the radiator for removal. So, Ian was telling you the doghouse came off. That was actually the armor covering for the top. And what we found, well, actually when we took it all off, this is a leather drive belt. So, it's broken, but you can tell it's original. So this is going back almost 100 years, okay, over 100 years. So this is actually a two-piece belt. This shows you the ingenuity at the time. It would come as a two-piece belt with, see the little steel interlocking pieces there? And this pin would actually hold it together. So it would come as two pieces. Your crew would feed it down. If you can see at the very bottom down there, that's the bottom, that's attached to the crank from the main engine. So that would go around that crank and then come up to this pulley right here, which is actually the cooling for the radiator. And then they would adjust the tension with this adjustable rod right here that would actually pivot this pulley either in or out for tension. So really interesting stuff. This in particular though, we found it broke, just hanging off to the side. But this, the value to see how it was made. And once again, modern day, we're using rubber. This is leather. So it really is fantastic to see. And then also tying that back to materials used in the past, where traditionally we use rubber or poly products today. This is felt. It's actually used, old-time felt, used to hold and support the gas tank inside this housing. So that's our job for today. We're gonna hopefully get these two removed. They're actually held on just by bolts. Two here, two there for the radiator. There's a couple of guides. It should slide right up once we loosen off the bottom hose. And same with the fuel tank. It's a pressurized fuel tank through a vacuum system. And as soon as we undo this, we should be able to lift this entire gas tank assembly out, and then we'll split it apart once we get it on the floor for safety. And that's what we're doing today.
The top plates off the 1917 are, we carefully lifted it off, and we brought it down. We have to disassemble, so this is two separate plates with what we're calling the doghouse, and there's a cage here for ventilation. In order to get it all apart, you have to do it from the inside. So we've rigged it up safely. We've already pulled some bolts, and we're going to disassemble. We're going to disassemble it.
In which we did, I just so I loosened off the vent line, so that's all ready to go. We just got these bolts over here loose. Nigel's working on the ones over there, and then we're just going to lift this thing out. We're going to pull the gantry back over, get some elevation on it, lift her out.
Okay.
If it's light enough, he'll grab one side, I'll grab the other. We'll just pop it out and see how it goes.
You know what? Take the eyelets out.
What are you going to do with that, Sean?
Just labeling the top copper vent line we took off the fuel tank.
Yep.
So just, well, it's still fresh in my mind before I forget. So I was going to work it up and label it.
One at a time is nice. I like that. You want to adjust this drone that got taken out this?
Looks like a barrier.
That good.
What's that?
Is that good? Two.
No, so that's in front. Used to be like that. It was being held by just that's splash up from the final drives.
Looks pretty good condition though, eh?
Yeah. Solid. You can see nice clean metal there.
But we need to open it up and see if it's pockmarked.
It is. So that's the trick where we'll probably put a solution on the inside of it and let that solution do its thing, clean it up, and we should be able to reuse this tank no problem. Original.
You said you're gonna put a solution in and drive around it in a truck, right?
I might. Yeah. We're gonna find somebody with a veteran truck to put it in.
A veteran
That
truck.
drives a lot, yes.
No suspension.
Okay, so what we have here is the shifter mechanism for the transmission, and as well they use this to mount the handle for the parking brake. Okay, which is this lever here. This is your shifting lever here, and then these 3 rods actually move the connecting rods to the transmission to select your different gears. This is a 4-speed vehicle, so it has 4 forward gears and 1 reverse. So what I'm going to do now is take it apart and inspect all the components and give it a good cleaning, and once I get it apart, we'll see where we're at. So what I'm going to do now is remove the bottom cover plate of the transmission shifter and expose the insides, and we'll see what we see. So last bolt out. Okay, maybe not. Okay, we're gonna pull the top cover now to see if we can figure out what's going on inside of this thing.
This is the front bracket. That makes sense.
He's on that.
He's on the.
Okay, there's the shifter arm there.
That piece came in here.
Okay.
It's only on the one side.
Right.
All right, so we just got the fuel tank out. Came out very nicely.
Right.
There's a feeder tube that comes off the top of it. That tube goes right to the bottom, okay? Okay. Now the only thing on the bottom of the fuel tank is this. So the drain cock that's on the bottom of the fuel tank doesn't have a lever or anything. It's straight into this. This tube goes right to here. This is an actual rivet bolt, okay? And why the heck would that tube be in there?
Is that where the fluid, the gas comes from?
This is the fuel tank.
It's a fuel tank.
Comes off the bottom of the fuel tank. And this rivet on the other side appears to be solid, like there's no drain. They stuck it.
Is this used at all? Like, is it used for fuel transfer?
I have no idea. Yeah,
This would probably be the vent tube, or some sort of a ground. Just like this is what we got, so here it is.
Yeah, okay. I'll have to get into the manual and see if it's original.
Because it would probably take the shorter route to the downdraft carburetor, and the intake from the fuel tank going to the carburetor would be down slope from
The pickup for the, actually, there's that vacuum fuel.
Oh, it does have
The
that.
vacuum tank, okay? So the line for the vacuum tank comes into the top, and there's the pickup tube goes right to the bottom of the fuel tank.
Right.
So this is not any part of that
See,
carburetor
in
feed.
the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the engine ground to the body or chassis was a woven copper mesh. So that's why they might still be pushing the copper line.
Gotcha.
You got a crack in there?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it goes clean through. So if I do this, that's not supposed to be like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to be.
No, I don't see that. No. It's not just another place to put fuel.
It's funny, it sure looks like it. So what's amazing is that it cracked. Oh, it's 2 separate pieces here.
Is it like an outer? That's an.
This is a top ring that's threaded, and this is a separate part. Yeah, repairable.
Absolutely. How's that?
Let's just tuck this here.
Okay. There you go. Right on.
There you go. There you go. Just so it's stuck. It's sort of. Hang on, hang on. No, no, no.
Just because
That's loose. That's moving. What? We're We're gonna have to take the. Hey, good. Now we just have to find the hole. Okay.
Nigel, can you give me a quick little breakdown here?
Yeah, so this is, we made it farther than we expected today. Originally we wanted to get the top armor plate off. That came off. It came apart quite easily. It's just kind of tricky trying to get it off and manhandle it and get the parts off. But anyway, we got that out of the way. The main thing, as I discussed before, we want to get to this engine. To get this engine out, the other engine for the Nash truck is being restored right now, and we want to get this out within about a month's time to swap locations. The other engine will come back running, and then this is the next engine that our mechanic is going to work on. So in order to get this engine out, we're going to remove some of the rear armor plates off the tank, and then we have to get back into the readings, as I like to call it, and we'll have to figure out our disconnect here between the engine and the transmission for the engine to come out.
Still quite a bit of work, eh?
Still quite a bit of work, quite a bit of reading, a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Can you just tap what each thing is here?
I'll start with the easy stuff. That's the engine, and at the other end here, in the this is where the firewall is that separates the crew compartment from the engine bay. And this is the crank mechanism for hand cranking the engine from the inside. Okay, you do it from the tail of the tank or from the inside. Still, the big question is which way do you turn it on either side. So this would be considered the transmission. Well, sorry, the transmission. These are brakes, and these are actuated by the tillers. So if you want to turn the tank, you're just going to slow one of these sides here for turning. There's your clutch housing here. And then out here, from the engine, through the clutch housing, through the transmission, these would be your final drives that go out to the drive wheel that turns the tracks.
So what are we working on here today, guys?
What we're doing now is we're taking apart the front differential. We showed you the other day the rear differential coming apart. They're basically the same. This one appears to have some more condition problems than the other one. Okay. So we're going to have to delve into the actual differential part here a little bit to see what's going on. We've got, looks like a busted pin.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have to figure out what's going on with that. And but for now we can carry on cleaning everything, getting rid of all the old oil, and you can see the lubricant in the casing there.
That's normal to be pooling like that?
Yeah.
That is. Where did you find a broken pin also?
In here.
Oh, was in there? Was it hard to get out?
No, it fell out.
Oh. And you know which part it was from?
I gotta pull this apart to see exactly what we're into.
Oh. And we didn't have to pull the other one apart, did we?
No, the other just fine. So this is half of the casing for the front differential. And you can see here, those broken pins have been wearing. They've been slipping and wearing on the casing. So we need to address the broken pins.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm John Panether. I've been a member here at the museum for about 9 years. I'm currently the second in charge on the Nash Quad, as well as a member of the team that's dealing with the M1917. My expertise really is more in line of just the basics of helping out, critical thinking, how things are taken apart, how things are being put back together, troubleshooting, that type of thing. I've worked with the Lego Chieftain, the Berlin Brigade Chieftain. I worked on the BV-202 with Bill, and I also helped with the regiment Sherman tank that is now a gate guard out front.
What were your challenges with them? How long did it take you?
Well, the Chieftain, there was about 5 or 6 of us that worked on that, and it took over 600 man-hours to take it apart, prime it, and repaint it. Again, part of the challenge was making sure that the materials that we were using, as well as the design, was absolutely historically correct. That was probably our largest challenge with that.
Let's take a step back right now. What's your service history? You were in the military, you're a paratrooper, right?
Yeah, I was in the U.S. military. I had stations at West Point Military Academy, West Point's prep school, Fort Sam Houston in Texas. I also was given the opportunity to go to airborne school. And I went to a tank school down at Fort Hood, which coincidentally I was able to train on Sheridans, which now I'm the lead with Brian Budd on that vehicle.
So you're in the U.S. military before, not in the Canadian military forces then?
No, I was in the U.S. military. I was given great opportunities. I met my wife through the military, and she's Canadian, and that's why I live up here now. I was never in the Canadian military. It's very much different than the U.S. military.
Oh. Was your father in the military too?
Yeah, my dad was. He was a master sergeant in Korea with the 10th Mountain Division.
And so you mentioned that you were in sports and you were doing hockey as well. Was that down there as well? Was that started with you?
Yeah, I was. I went originally to West Point as an athletic trainer. I got involved in not only hockey but some of the other sports, football. But I became an assistant hockey coach there under Jack Riley, and that kind of provided me with that base opportunity because I was a kid from Kansas. I didn't know anything about hockey, and Jack brought me along over a 3-year period, and then I was an assistant coach. So I kind of took that along with the whole military experience, and I went to Fort Sam Houston as an athletic trainer and a competition coordinator, and I went back to West Point's prep school as an athletic trainer and a football and baseball coach.
So your wife's Canadian?
My wife is Canadian, yeah.
You met her down there?
I met her on a hockey trip. West Point was playing Royal Military College in Kingston, and some cadets got loose on the town, let's just say. And I was out at various establishments rounding cadets up, and that's where I met my wife. So one thing led to another. A couple years later, we're married, and she moved with me back down to the States for my last 2 years.
She moved down here for you?
Yep.
And then you were like, well, here's a woman I love, and hockey is crazy up there.
And I was actually able to get a job in hockey. Worked at Hockey Development Center and the Ontario Hockey Federation for a number of years, and it was in my blood, and I was so glad that I had that opportunity not only there but here.
Everything falls in a bit. You just never know what's around the corner of life, do
you? You know what? It's if somebody had told me when I was, say, in high school that this is what I would be doing, this is where I'd be working and involved in this kind of a place, I would have told them you're absolutely crazy. Like, what drugs are you on? The people that have the positive attitudes, they will stay. And they're the ones that are still here today. Okay. So this is one of the restoration projects we worked on, and it was during COVID. So this project took over 600 man-hours to complete. There was 5 or 6 of us. Pete Cocker was the lead on this, and he did a great job in keeping us organized. All the boxes, everything that you can see that's sticking out had to come off the vehicle. We needle gunned it, took all the paint down to bare metal, primed everything, and then reapplied the paint. On the sides here, there's a distinct design to this entire side. And again, we did it off pictures and a model that one of the Chieftain commanders used, or he gave us pictures of it, and we had to try to measure how each one of these lines worked, how long it went, how it was measured. And when he came over and he saw it, he said, you guys got it right, which I was really surprised about. I think there was one little brown square on the back that they said didn't work, wasn't quite right. I was like, boy,
That's pretty good.
you know, and 600 hours, that's a lot of man hours to be putting together. It was so much fun to put together. This is the M551 Sheridan. Myself and Brian Butt are the leads to maintain this vehicle. Again, when I came to the museum for the very first time, I couldn't believe that they actually had one of these. And I trained on one of these back in the early 80s. Never thought that I'd ever see one again. It's kind of like, you know, that emotion you get when you see something that you haven't seen in like 20, 30 years, and you're so flabbergasted that you actually see it again. It's kind of like your first girlfriend, you know. She may not have been the prom queen or the most popular, but it's still the first. And that's the way I feel about this vehicle. It's airborne, it's airdroppable, it's amphibious. It only weighs about 20 tons, but it's fast. It's got a heck of a kick of a barrel on it. It's got a 152 that shoots a shillelagh. That's an anti-tank weapon, armor piercing. It's got the flechette rounds that it fires. And I love this vehicle. In good shape. We're always looking for new parts and track for it. But, you know, I love this vehicle. It's just so much fun, and we don't get to take it out as much as I'd like, but you know, when we do, I try to get in there and drive it.
Okay, so what we have here is the shift mechanism. It's been taken apart, all the parts have been cleaned, primed, and now we're going to start putting it back together. And yeah, we'll start by putting the shifting rods back in. So put a little lube on there. Slide that in, and then you get this guy.
What's this piece called?
I'm not sure exactly what the name in the manual is for it. It's like a cradle. It activates the shifting rods. So you got your shifting rods here, and each one of these is connected back to the transmission. And depending on what position this is in, we'll put it in the appropriate gear for that particular rod. Okay? So don't ask me which one's which. I won't know until I start to put the rest of it back together.
What's this? What have you made there?
That's a gasket to stop. There's a little cover plate goes on here. Come around, Casper. Cover plate goes on here, and this gasket will stop the lubricant from leaking out.
What's it made from?
It's made from a special paper.
Yeah?
Yeah, specifically designed for this type of application. It's fuel resistant, oil resistant, so
What's this piece?
it's a bronze bushing. There's a shaft that goes through here. I have to check if I've got this the right way around. But we've got a small problem. That is that there's a little grub screw here, right? And it protrudes through on the underneath side here. And what it does is it goes into that little indent there. Can you see that?
Yep.
And that holds that in place. But the grub screw's not going all the way down in, so I've got to clean up the threads and that to get it to go in, so it'll engage in that little indentation there. So these are special little punches for making holes.
Yep.
Specifically designed for this purpose.
Well, sandpaper when you first started.
Gasket paper. Okay, what we're going to do now is put the shifting arm back on, the shifting lever. So Goes on to this assembly here, and then there's this pin that goes through. Like that. Now, there is, to hold that in place, a small retaining bolt. Stay. Now, this is going to be the fun part.
Couldn't use the old bolts, eh? Or are these just cleaned up bolts you're using?
Cleaned up.
Sweet.
It's called a woodruff key.
Wood drift key. You just clean that one up, yeah?
Yeah, I'm just cleaning it up to get it fit.
Is it time?
It is time. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put the park and brake lever on. Even though this is the shifting mechanism, the parking brake lever is part of the of this mechanism. So this is the parking brake lever.
Easy peasy, eh?
And it's a matter of getting it lined up.
Welcome back to Project 1918. We've talked about the root origins of the M1917 before, within the FT and the Renault Frère company in France, but maybe we need to take a step back a little further first. Today, we're going to explore the root origins of the tank story. In 1914, early battles had shown that it's completely suicidal for infantry and cavalry to charge across open ground against enemy machine guns to try and breach enemy defensive lines. As a result, both sides are on the lookout for options that would allow them to get to the enemy front lines while minimizing their losses. As a result, in early 1915, there is a Land Ships Committee formed, oddly enough through the Royal Navy, with a certain Sir Winston Churchill at the helm as First Lord of the Admiralty. In that time frame, the Royal Navy had actually been experimenting with armored cars in some of their ground units on land, but these armored cars had not managed to get a lot of use after warfare had become static. So, what if, then, the Royal Navy's preeminent technology on the high seas, the battleship, thickly armored, heavily armed, could be transposed into a land setting to advance across that open ground and protect the infantry on the way to the enemy lines and breach that barbed wire? The Landship Committee decides to contract William Foster and Company of Lincoln to try and build a prototype of this new concept of armored vehicle. The key figures along the way here are the managing director of the company, William Chieftain, and an engineer who had transferred in from the Royal Naval Air Squadron. Having fine-tuned the hardness of the armor plate and created a specialized type of metal cleat track design with rails that would allow it to stay affixed to the running gear of the tank as it moved forward over the top of trenches, the number one Lincoln machine, jokingly named Little Willie as a jab at the Crown Prince Wilhelm of Germany, was ready later that year, and it rolled out onto the testing field. Now, Little Willie was perhaps a little different than the designers might have initially imagined, and indeed how we imagine tanks to be today. It didn't even have any armament on it at all, let alone a turret or sponsons or anything that we recognize. But Little Willie was extremely important for the foundation of the tank as a concept. It proved that an armored vehicle that could advance across open ground and protect infantry to breach enemy barbed wire was a sound and effective idea. And this would spur further tank design in the next few months ahead. If Little Willie only had one small downside, it's just that its length wasn't quite sufficient to cross the widest of trenches. As a result, Chieftain and Wilson come up with a rhomboid-shaped tank design that would allow the tank to catch the other side of trench walls and climb up over them rather than risk falling into the trench. Thus, in early 1916, a new design of tank, ultimately named Mother and thus officially termed the Mark I when it is adopted for military service, was ready for action. The Mark Is were produced in 150 units total, 75 each of which were considered male and female, the male tanks being equipped with 6-pounder cannons and machine guns, whereas the female tanks were only equipped with machine guns. After shipment to France, the Mark I enters combat for the first time on the 15th of September 1916 at the Battle of Flers-Courcelette. Only 25 of the 49 Mark I's shipped there actually make it into the battle, but their impact was significant. German soldiers were terrified when they initially saw these behemoth machines lumbering their way towards them with 6-pounder cannons, 12 millimeters of armor, weighing 28 tons and creeping along at a meager speed of 5 kilometers an hour. But it was enough. Their machine guns couldn't penetrate the armor, and in desperation they were turning their own field artillery cannons against the tanks to stand any hope of slowing them down. Thus, the tank cemented its place on the battlefield, and subsequent developments like the Mark II, Mark IV, Mark V, and Mark VIII would later be created for British and, in the last case, even American use during the First World War. Around the same time as the Mark I is being developed and deployed, the French Army is pursuing its own designs that are mostly based on agricultural tractor chassis from the United States. The Schneider CA-1 is the first French tank to enter combat on the 16th of April 1917 at Berry-au-Bac, while the Saint-Chamond is the second such tank designed to enter combat on the 5th of May 1917 at Moulins de la Faux. Both of them being based on the same chassis type, more or less, have the same sorts of problems. The hulls are somewhat boat-shaped and pointed, as it were, and especially in the Saint-Chamond's case, there's a lot of overhang at the front and rear. And as a result, the tanks all too often get hung up on the edges of trenches as they're trying to cross. As a result, the French Army was keen to explore some lighter tank options that could more ideally be mass-produced and used to swarm enemy positions to overwhelm them. In particular, Colonel Jean-Baptiste Eugène Estienne of the French artillery arm was interested in pursuing this kind of design and consulted with renowned French car manufacturer Louis Renault to that effect. And with Renault's support and investment, the Renault FT was ready for combat in 1918. But that's a story for a future time. As for the Schneider CA-1 and the Saint-Chamond, sadly, of the 400 units of each that were made, only one of each now survives. They're both on display at the Musée des Blindés in Saumur, France. As for the German forces, of course, they weren't developing tanks early on in the war, and when they saw the British tanks first entering the field of combat, they began capturing those first British tanks. Those captured tanks were collectively known as Beutepanzern, literally war booty tanks, and to identify them from the tanks still in active British use, they had to be painted with the Iron Cross insignia, and the British Army shifted over to using red and white identification marks to distinguish friend from foe. That being said, later in the war, they did actively pursue their own tank design domestically with the Allgemeines Kriegsdepartement Abteilung 7 Verkehrswesen, hope I said that right, General War Department Section 7 Transport, pursuing a tank design that they called the Sturmpanzerwagen, or Armored Assault Vehicle. This ungainly, large, metal boxy vehicle equipped with a 57mm Maxim Nordenfeldt cannon and MG-08 machine guns first arrived on the field of battle in the 21st of March 1918, taking part in Germany's spring offensive Operation Michael. Even though the A7V is effective and functional in design inherently, with a top speed of 16 kilometers an hour, it's pretty ungainly with a massive crew of around 18 personnel, or sometimes even more, and weighing around 33.4 tons. It tends to be fairly top-heavy, so it has this liability to fall over when traveling over uneven ground. Sadly, of the 20 A7Vs made, only one survives, number 506, called Mephisto. It is now at the Queensland Museum, South Bank, in Australia. The deployment of each of these tanks throughout the rest of the war gave each of the warring powers vital tactical lessons and cemented the vehicle's status as a modern weapon of war. Tanks have changed quite a bit since then, but they're still out there on the battlefield, and despite what naysayers may think, they're here to stay. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of Project 1918. If you like these videos, please click that like button and subscribe to us here on YouTube, consider supporting us on Patreon, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You also can donate to support our expansion to create a brand new facility here on the Oshawa Airport South Field. Your support means a lot to us, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.